Welcome back, everyone. I hope you had a nice little chat or a nice little stretch or a nice little nothing. I don't know. So, welcome to Caroline Leon's session. So, Caroline is a conscious business coach helping change makers to succeed in business using strategies rooted in integrity. So, her session today is authentic outreach, a way to create clients with integrity. And so she pretty much helps change makers to build and grow sustainable businesses. So firmly believes that when we change the way we do business, we change the world. And it's Caroline's mission to support compassionate business owners to do just that in order to create a world where business can be a force for good rather than one for greed. So Caroline supports business owners to do away with the gross and manipulative tactics so they're so prevalent these days online, and instead adopt growth strategies that put people before profits. That sounds rather nice. So welcome, Caroline. Nice.
Thank you. Thanks, Steve. So I'll just dive in. Let me share my screen. I've got some slides for you today. And let's get that started. So the first thing I want to say is welcome everybody, and thank you for turning up to my session on authentic outreach. I am mindful of the fact that when I teach this concept, even though it's super simple, I end up usually spending about 2 hours. So I know I've only got about 45 minutes here. So I'm going to try and get through these slides as quickly as possible without bombarding you with information. But I do want to save some time for questions. And so what I've asked Steve to do is just keep an eye on the chat for me, because I'm just mindful while I'm in the presentation, I don't see the chat. I'll come out of it at the end to see if we've got any questions. But if things come up during the course of the conversation, do those in the end. So as Steve mentioned, my name is Caroline Leon. I'm I call myself a conscious business coach. I'm just going to, oops, just bear with me. Just want to minimize the video so it's not covering up my slides. Okay, so what I wanted to start with is a little bit about what I mean when I talk about conscious business. I mean, you're all here, this is the ethical marketing event, so you've probably got a good idea, but just to run through what I mean, we're talking about businesses here which put people before profits and impact above income. So essentially, at their core, they're all about making a difference. So I know there's going to be a lot of you out there working in embodiment, other industries as well, but essentially, I know listening to me speak today because you are in business because you want to make a difference in the world. And because of that, we interact with the world as a business in a different way. And that way is usually prioritizing service over selling. And a lot of people come to me because they have a real problem with selling. They struggle to market their business. They don't feel good about selling. They know that they have to in order for their business to work, but that's not really what it's about for them. And by the term conscious, what I'm speaking to there is an understanding of our interconnectedness. A lot of the folk that I work with are spiritual or spiritually inclined, as I like to say, and they don't see ourselves as operating in a silo. When we do work over here, it affects the bigger picture. It affects everybody. It affects the global picture. And that's what I mean when I say, when we change business, we change the world. Now, we've all seen the impact that prioritizing profit and greed has had on the world. It's created wars, it's created poverty, it's created suffering. And so my vision for the world is this idea that if the most profitable businesses were those that had the greatest levels of integrity, what a world we would live in, what a different world. And so what I'm going to talk about today sits within that context. And then just to illustrate that, I've got a quote for you from Joseph Campbell. And so he says, when we quit thinking primarily about ourselves and our own self-preservation, we undergo a truly heroic transformation of consciousness. And what a wonderful thing that is. And so ethical marketing, to put it in the context of today. So when people come to me, I mentioned a lot of people who really know how to market their business without becoming too consumed with the idea of selling, or to come across as icky or manipulative, or putting pressure on people to buy our products and services. And so one of the first things I often do for people is I help them to reframe what marketing is. And I like to reframe marketing as connecting with people versus marketing to. And we're going to talk about that, because essentially my entire presentation is around connection. And the main way that I teach my clients to connect with their people is creating insanely valuable content, and then using authentic outreach as a way to deepen relationships with the people who are engaging with that content. Now, today we're going to be focusing primarily on the authentic outreach piece as an alternative to we often see in the dysfunctional, especially I tend to focus on online businesses, but the online business space and just the general, world of marketing, which is, these automated sales funnels, pressurized tactics, countdown timers, and all the manipulation, and, trying to dig into people's pain points, and, play on people's fear of missing out and all of that stuff. This sits as a much more ethical alternative. And what it requires us to do essentially is put the person before us before the sale. So what we're doing with ethical marketing and authentic outreach in the context of that is we are looking at what we're offering as a business, and we're looking at the person we have in front of us, and we're saying, is what I have something that is genuinely useful to the person before me? Is it what they need? Do I have something of value that can help us? Versus, how do I get this person to buy my product or service? How do I get the sale? How do I quickly get them to hit the buy button or sign up for the class before they change their mind or realize it's not the right thing for them? And so what we're doing with this is operating from a genuine desire to serve the members of our audience and our business network. And so what is authentic outreach? I mean, that's the term that I give. I know, for example, George Cow, who's going to be talking later today, who I think is a wonderful business coach. He talks about net caring as a way to connect with our audience. I call it authentic outreach. But essentially what it is connecting with people in your community and beyond in a direct, personal, and meaningful way. It's reaching out to people in your audience that we often see, which is like, if you have the perfect copy and the perfect brand and the perfect website, then people will be drawn to us. We will attract people. This is about reaching out to people with the dual purpose of connecting on a deeper level, cultivating a deeper relationship, and who doesn't want that? And at the same time, doing what you can to be of service to those people. So just a few words around what it isn't, because connection can be interpreted in a number of ways. So it's not marketing to your audience, as I've said, it's connecting with your audience. It's not spamming people. Obviously, I wouldn't expect anybody on this call to be spamming people. It's not being on this treadmill of pitching your products and services. It's not posting on social media. It's not the blogging, the email marketing, the newsletters that you might do, the content stuff. It's not squeezing people through an automated sales funnel. Finally, and probably most importantly, it's not networking. Now, a lot of people, when they hear me talk about authentic outreach, they say, isn't that networking? Everybody's had an experience of being at an awkward networking event where if you're anything like me, an introvert who stands in the corner where they bring out the canapes, you know how uncomfortable it can be. And so outreach isn't networking. And the difference is fundamental, is that networking is something that you do with the intention of getting more business. With outreach, we completely flip that. And the intention is to give. So we're connecting with people not to get our business in front of them and to thrust our business card in their hands. If anyone still does that, I don't know. It's not about that. It's about, what can I do? How can I be there to this person? How can I give something? How can I be generous in this interaction? And the ideal scenario, of course, is you come out with a win-win, and it's a positive interaction for all parties involved. But the intention behind outreach is to give versus to get. And a wonderful book that illustrates this point that I love is a book called The Go-Giver, which is a play on the term the go-getter. And it's a parable about a guy who is struggling in business because he's that typical, struggling in life, more appropriately. He's that typical go-getter type person. And the whole book, it's a wonderful book by Bob Berg, and I think there's another author whose name I forget, but if you Google The Go-Giver, you'll find it. And it's this idea of, being generous in business, and that's what we're going to be looking at today. And so the purpose of outreach, people say to me, well, if it's not to get business, what's the purpose? Owner, why are we doing that? And right up at the top, I have, it feels good to be connected. And I say that because so often when people come to me to utilize my services and my coaching, it's because they don't feel good in their business. They know they want to have a business. They start to work on creating success in that business, but it's not feeling good because what they see as the traditional ways to market and to get business aren't aligned with the kind of people that I work with, and I've seen the kind of people on this attending this event today. So what's wonderful about outreach is it feels good, and if it feels good to you as a business owner, it feels good to the people that you're connecting with, and everyone feels good, which is wonderful. Brings about opportunities to collaborate in so many ways that I'll talk about a little bit later on. It also gives you ample opportunities to help other people. I don't find people come to me and they have a deep and genuine desire to help and serve people, but they're struggling to get their business off the ground. So they're sat, instead of helping and serving people, they're sat, tweaking their website copy or working on their brand or trying to get some better photographs. Or with outreach, and when we put outreach at the heart of our marketing efforts, you are creating opportunities left, right, and center to help and serve people. The very reason that you wanted to go into business in the first place. And what that does when we're out in the world and we're connecting is it allows you to better understand what people might need from you and your business. I often have people come to me and say, I'm thinking about creating this service or running this class or this workshop, what do you think? And my first answer is always, I have no idea. You need to and so when we practice outreach, and I'm going to be going into, more detail about what outreach, specific practicalities of outreach. But when we do it, we're engaging with our audience and our business network in a way that allows us to understand what they need from us. Very important to conscious business owners and ethical marketing. It doesn't feel icky or salesy. It feels genuine. When we do it with the right intention, it feels genuine and good versus icky and salesy, which is, of course, wonderful. And inevitably, and this is the key, it results in more business. When I put this presentation together and I afterwards I thought, oh gosh, I talk right at the front. The title of the talk is about creating more clients, and I don't actually talk very much about that within the context of when we practice outreach correctly and with the right intention, more business, more clients come as a result. It's a more organic approach. It's not the focus. Our focus is not on getting the sale. Our focus is on serving.
Caroline, while you just pause for a sec there,
yes.
I'm noticing every minute or two, you have a half a second dropout.
Oh, really?
I don't know if it was by your mic or your Wi-Fi or something. I don't know if there's any way to fix it. I suspect not, because it's not really very much, but just I'd raise it in case.
Oh, okay. Was that happening before we started?
No, it just appears to be now, but
Okay.
it's not really disrupting. It's just like half a second. So maybe we'll continue. I just wasn't sure if there's anything going on there.
Maybe I could connect. Should I just, I'm going to just try and connect to another network and see. Okay. Hopefully that's better. Let's see. Okay. So, so the purpose of outreach, as I've said, not to get the sale, to serve, and to connect with people in a genuine and authentic way. So who do we connect with? You know, we can reach out and connect with a wide variety of people from within our business network. That could include former clients, current clients, potential clients, although I do always advise that we don't look at people as potential clients. We want to see people as people, and not place a kind of an attachment on the outcome of our connection, which sometimes happens if we're thinking of people in terms of potential clients. Our colleagues and peers, you know, often in traditional marketing and you know, the traditional business world, we're seeing, you know, we're encouraged to see our colleagues or our peers as competitors. You know, in ethical marketing and conscious business, obviously that is not the case. And so, you know, I always encourage people to expand their network and connect with people alongside them, you know, people who are doing similar work in your industry or similar industries. You also want to connect with members of your audience. That could be, depending on what kind of business you have, maybe you're more in person than online, but you, most people in this day and age, I think, have, you know, followers on social media, maybe connections on LinkedIn. If you are doing email marketing, you have a newsletter, you'll have subscribers. And also make time to connect with those people that you maybe think, oh, they're not going to have time to hear from me. And, you know, these are the people that we look up to, that we admire, our mentors, our teachers, people that we follow, and maybe that we're learning from. Often, you know, I have to kind of nudge my clients to reach out to those people and make connections that way too, because that can often feel like the harder one to do. And we'll go into that a little bit more in a second. So over the next 2 slides, what I want to do is I'm going to give you 10 really practical ways to practice outreach with your business network. These are all things that I have done to grow my business that have led to more meaningful relationships with members of my audience and inevitably to more income and more sales of my products and services, which is always welcome. So number 1, write to your subscribers. This is one of my favorites because I place a lot of attention on my newsletter. So if you are someone who has subscribers, it doesn't matter how big or small your list is. This is not about the numbers. And you send regular emails. If you're using a provider like MailChimp or ConvertKit or something like that, check in and see who is opening your emails. Something that I love to do is every now and again, when time permits, is I'll look and see who are my top openers, who is reading my email every week. And I'll send them a personal note. I'll just write to them, not through MailChimp. I'll use my, you know, my personal email, and I'll just drop them a line to say thank you. You know, I noticed that you've been reading all of my newsletters lately. I really appreciate it. I appreciate your time and energy. If there's anything I can help you with, if there's anything in your business that would be useful for you, let me know. I'm here. And I get sometimes people don't respond. That always happens with outreach. You can have situations where it's met with radio silence, but often I'll get people who respond and they're so bowled over and so amazed that I've taken the time to send them a personal message, and they're open and willing to share about their struggle with their business and their marketing, and that can lead again to wonderful things. Like, you know, often I'll maybe hop on a call with them, I'll gift them a complimentary session, all wonderful ways to kind of get more connected and more acquainted with the people in my audience, rather than just be numbers to me, which is of course not how we want to operate. I like to be intentional about accepting friend requests. If you're on, or connections on LinkedIn, you know, if you're on social media and people are reaching out to friend request you on Facebook or connect with you on LinkedIn, you know, lots of people either fall between two camps. They either accept everybody and, you know, don't think anything of it, or they reject anyone they don't recognize or know. If you are going to accept friend requests from people in your wider network who maybe are connecting with you because you're a business, be intentional about that. Drop them a line. You know, what inspired you to reach out? You know, thank you for your friend request. You know, everything that I'm talking about today is about being more intentional with the way you you know, you connect with people in your world around your business. Another one, respond meaningfully to comments on your content. You know, a big part of what I teach is around creating valuable content for your audience. And what I see a lot is people creating, you know, taking time to write, you know, long and useful articles about their area of expertise, putting it out into the world. People are commenting or engaging, which sometimes, you know, the complaint is they're not, but that takes time and comes, you know, when people start to trust that you're going to show up regularly. And then all they do is like the comment, you know. Actually, for me, that's the start of a conversation. So, you know, if somebody leaves a comment on an article of mine that says this was really helpful, I will write to them and I'll say, thank you for taking time to comment. I really appreciate it. Tell me more. Would you be willing to tell me more about why it was so useful to you? Again, often leads to a conversation, you know, a Zoom call, or if you work in with people in your locality, it might be an actual coffee date in real life. I talk about virtual coffee dates, but that's because I live in a tiny town in the mountains in Spain and my clients are out in the world. Reach out to former clients. And just check in. You know, often we're so busy trying to get new business, trying to get the next sale, trying to enroll the next client, that we forget about the people that we've worked with. You know, something that I love to do is stay in touch with people that I've worked with. I've been coaching now for nearly 10 years. There are people that, you know, I worked with 10 years ago that I still will on a fairly regular basis. I try to do it at least every 6 months. I'll reach out to people and just check in to see how they are and what they're up to in the world. It feels good. It's amazing. It's a way to keep your business network activated. And it means that they think of you and they feel genuinely cared for by you. And that's always a wonderful thing. And then ask for referrals. So something that I like to do as well is I go to people I've worked with in the past, and I do a lot of gifting complimentary coaching sessions, as well as obviously working with paying clients. And I will go to people in either camp and say, I'd love to gift you, you know, you've experienced what it's like to work with me, and I believe you got benefit from it. I would love to gift someone in your world a session. You know, is there anybody in your world that you think would benefit from a gift coaching session from me? And it's wonderful. It's such a win-win situation because you win because you have a new connection and somebody, you know, that's coming into your audience and experiencing your expertise. The person you're asking for the referral wins because they get to gift something to someone they care about. And of course, the person who receives the gift wins. So it's a really wonderful situation for all. And again, as I mentioned earlier, reach out to people you admire. I mean, I like this one because I wouldn't even be on this event speaking to you right now if it hadn't been for me reaching out to someone I admire. When I first started work as a business coach, someone who came onto my radar was George Cow. You'll be hearing from him later. I highly recommend you don't miss his session. And I thought he was wonderful. I learned a lot from George. And, you know, I reached out to him. I told him how much I loved his work. I shared his work. I still do freely, you know, rave about him to anyone who cares to listen. And it's because of him that I'm here today. He recommended that I get involved with this event. So, you know, do that. Reach out to the people in your world that you admire, even if it feels intimidating to do so. Conduct audience research. You know, Steve mentioned it in the session earlier. You know, we need to be asking people what they want from us, and you know, do they trust us? You know, what do they want from us? and don't go off creating things because we think it would be nice to have a workshop on that, or, you know, a coaching program that looks like this. Actually talk to the people in your network and ask them. It cultivates trust and respect, and people feel listened to, and it gives you the ability to create products and services that really resonate for your people. Connect with your peers and mentors. So, you know, and your colleagues. Again, you know, don't shy away from reaching out to people who do similar work to you. Sometimes, you know, if we haven't done the inner work, we might feel jealous of people who are doing better than us. You know, I always invite people to really push through that. And if there's someone you're seeing online who's doing wonderful work that you wish your business was, you know, there, or, you know, you were doing similar work, you know, reach out to them, connect with them. You want to have a team of people that you can rely on and share with and mastermind with and all of that good stuff. Show up in social media and be of service to people. Now, I'm the first person to say don't spend countless hours on social media, but I would recommend that you do take time on a regular basis to hang out where your people are hanging out, to be in Facebook groups where your ideal client maybe showing up, and be of service. Don't go in there and pitch your services. Nobody likes that. I don't think anybody responds well to that, but be of service, answer questions. If, you know, for me, for example, if somebody were to be in one of the groups that I occasionally spend time in when I have some space in my day, and they're asking a question about how to create clients, or, you know, how to find inspiration for content, you know, I will sit and give a thoughtful response. I won't mention anything about my services, or, you know, oh, and hey, I offer an intensive on this. I won't do any of that. I will just genuinely show up and serve people on social media. And again, you know, a lot of these, you may not get the direct response of somebody saying, oh my goodness, you know, I want to work with you. But a lot of this work is about being open to connection and being operating from a place of service. That, you know, if you're anything like me, you believe in the way the universe works, and that, you know, good things come when you put good things out into the world. So, and then finally, as a specific practical example, reach out to your biggest fans and thank them for their support. So this is similar to the newsletter example I gave earlier, but also I do it a lot with my content. I put a lot of content out online to be of value, hopefully, to people. And when people engage with it and they like it and they share it, I will always take the time to reach out on a one-to-one private basis and say thank you. Just genuinely say thank you and see if there's anything else I can help them with. So intention. This is a biggie. This is the big thing, because I've seen people try to do outreach or connect and be of service in a way that feels off. And it feels like a strategy rather than a genuine desire to connect. And so here, what you've got to keep in check and be mindful of at every point is your intention. Don't use outreach as a strategy to get the sale. Use it as a way to connect and serve. And that means don't get attached. Don't get attached to the outcomes of your connections. You know, I said it earlier, don't go into a connection thinking, oh, this person might become a client. If you think like that, your intention is off. I love an analogy that my dear colleague and mastermind partner, Ellie Trier, who I highly recommend you check out. She helps people cultivate communities for their business. She always recommends that you behave like a Labrador. And if you've ever seen a Labrador in action, they don't care if, you know, they'll run up to anyone and everybody and jump up and lick and sniff. And if the person is, you know, an absolute avid dog hater and pushes them away, they won't take it personally. They won't get offended. They won't, you know, they won't spend time thinking, oh, why did that connection not work? Why don't they like dogs? They will just move on to the next person and do the exact same thing. So Ellie always recommends that, you know, when we're reaching out to people and connecting, with people, you know, adopt the mindset of a Labrador and do it just purely because you love connection. And then finally, under intention, always seek permission, because sometimes, especially when we really want to do good in the world and we want to help people, we can be a bit pushy with our service, you know. So it can be, I've seen people do it where they're so keen and so have such a desire to help that they help without permission. And so whenever you're connecting with people, before you offer a resource that might be useful, or you offer to gift a free session to somebody, ask their permission. You know, there's a wonderful book I'm reading that I think could be useful to you. Would you like me to send you the details? You know, or I have a PDF on this, or I've written a blog post about this. Do you want me to send it to you? Always ask permission before you give and serve, because some people may in that moment not actually want your help. And it's important that you have that in your intention as well. And another quote to illustrate this: a gift consists not in what is done or given, but in the intention of the giver or doer. So really important piece to this is how you're doing this and why you're doing it. And so there's a bit of a paradox here, because on one level, I'm saying to you, don't use outreach as a strategy to get the sale or to create the client. And at the same time, I want you to simultaneously be intentional about your outreach so that it is more likely to lead to business growth. And so to help with that, I offer a 3-step approach. And so the first step is to be in a mode of connection. And I'm going to share a challenge with you. You've got some homework from me that I'll share at the end of the presentation. Number 2 is to practice intentional outreach. So that's when we go beyond just connecting for the sake of connection, and we actually move into, you know, how can I be helpful here? How can I help you? And then number 3, serving your people powerfully. And this might look like, well, we'll go into it. I'm going to talk about these each in turn. So when we're in a mode of connection, the idea is that we're just strengthening and expanding our network. A lot of people, especially in the early stages of business, they're so bogged down in delivering their service or trying to do everything that needs to be done to build a business that they've forgotten to connect with people. As Steve was saying at the end of his presentation, they've forgotten to have fun and they've forgotten to just enjoy this. And so being in a mode of connection, and like I say, I have a challenge for you on this, is step 1 if you're out of practice, if this is something that you haven't done in a while. Step 2 is practicing intentional outreach. And here the intention is to serve. So we're not just connecting for the sake of connecting. We're not just saying, hey, how's it going? You were in my thoughts. I wondered how you were. We're actually connecting with someone because we think maybe we can help them. Maybe there is something that they're struggling with. So, you know, some of the examples I gave earlier of things like reaching out to my subscribers, I know that they have a struggle or they have a need around building a conscious business, or they wouldn't be on my list and they wouldn't be reading all of my emails. So I know that I could take that beyond just connecting to say, hey, and I can see if there's something that I can offer. So that looks like, you know, sharing articles or a book. I had one client that I created years ago who we were in an online course together. Actually, he was a peer, and he'd pivoted in his business from one thing to coaching. And I reached out to him and said, listen, there's a wonderful book that I love, and I have it on PDF, and I have permission of the author to share it. Can I send it to you? And he said, yeah, that would be amazing. And that relationship evolved and ended with him hiring me as his business coach. So, you know, other things is, you know, being open to recommending other resources other than your own. If when you're doing intentional outreach, all you ever do is share your stuff, then it's not really with the intention of serving. You're actually just trying to get your stuff in front of people. So don't be shy about recommending other coaches. I'll often send people to Tad, for example, who's also Tad Hargrave, who is also speaking today, or George Cow, because I know maybe what the person before me needs is more relevant to their work than mine. And then my personal way to serve as a coach is to gift complimentary sessions. And, you know, you can look at what that would be for your business to explore, go deeper in the struggle or issue that the person is bringing to you. And then the final step is to serve people powerfully. And so, as I've mentioned, I try to do that with the session. So I will, I have several slots in my calendar each week that get snapped up where I will jump on a 60-minute call and endeavor to powerfully coach someone around their business. Healers, wellness practitioners, teachers, guides can all do this. You can offer a free session, you could offer a free class. I mean, this is a very common practice. I've seen other examples of, web designers doing free website reviews, or I have a copywriting client who does a wonderful thing called a mind meld, where she jumps on a call and co-writes some copy with the person for free. Look for exciting and fun ways to be generous with your people and serve them. And so when you do that, when you serve people powerfully, when you've connected authentically and then serve them powerfully, a number of wonderful things for your business happen. Top of the list, they hire you. It happens to me often. I will offer a complimentary session. I will not mention working together because it's a gift. It's not a pitch. It's not a discovery session. But at the end of it, it's been powerful for the person, and they say, "How can I work with you?" I mean, that's the best outcome. But there are so many other things that can happen when we do this. Maybe they can't afford to work with you, but they refer people to you. That happens to me a lot. People who I've gifted a complimentary session to send other people my way, who then end up hiring me as a coach. They might leave you a great review or testimonial. They're more likely to share your content and your offerings with people because they feel, grateful to you for the time that you've taken with them, and they love what you do, and they share it more widely. If it's not someone who is, a potential recipient of your services, but more on the peer side, they might invite you to speak at an event like this, or be a guest on their podcast, or teach to their audience as a guest expert, or put an article on their website. These are all wonderful things that can happen as a result of outreach and serving people powerfully. So I'm mindful of time. We're near the end. So here is my challenge for you, basically. If hearing what I've said about outreach and connecting with people has made you think about your own network and how connected and lit up it is, and maybe if you're anything like a lot of the people I work with, you have let that side of things go a little bit, your challenge, should you choose to accept it, is to reach out and connect with 50 people in the next 7 days. And so this is looking at stage 1 of the 3 steps that I shared with you. This is where your only purpose is to connect. So this can be with anyone. It can be with family members, long distant cousins. It can be people you've worked with. It can be old colleagues from your old corporate life. It can be anyone at all. The idea here is just to open you up to being in a mode of connection. So we're thinking short and sweet, keep it simple, a couple of lines, you were in my thoughts, and I wanted to reach out and see how you are and what's going on in your life, and just experience the magic that happens when you do this. Every single time I've given this challenge to a group of people or to an individual, it's always had an incredible impact. And I've been giving this challenge out for so many years that sometimes I think, is this impactful? And every single time when people really do it and they stick to the 7 days and they do the, connect with 50 people from their world, they always come back to me and say it was life-changing and things happened. Things for their business, things for their personal life, things happen. So what I've got for you is I've created a Google Doc that has the full instructions for how to do the outreach challenge. It is simple, but just in case you have any questions on it, and some other resources on how to use authentic outreach in your business. So I wanted to create that. I'll put the slides from this presentation in there as well for you. And then also, obviously, if you want to keep in touch, there's my website, and my email address is here. So we've got some time, I believe. 5 minutes or so to answer any questions. So I need to come out of this so I can see the chat. Where would that be?
I can also bring some to your attention if you'd like.
Oh, that would be wonderful, yeah.
Yeah, so one of the questions was, what if you're I think you sort of covered this a little bit as well, but maybe useful to review. So if you're starting from ground zero and you don't have an audience or a network, but you do have useful skills, what's your first recommendation?
Great, absolutely great question. I mean, what I would say is we all have people in our life. We absolutely all know people. When I first did the challenge, the 50 people challenge, which is, all about outreach, was given to me back, oh gosh, 8 or 9 years ago by a business coach that I worked with. And when he said, reach out to 50 people, I immediately said, I don't know 50 people. That was my first thought, like who can I reach out to? But when you take a little bit of time and you start to think about, former colleagues, family members, friends, you start to realize everybody knows, 50 people or more. And so start there. I mean, I tend to recommend that people, if they're worried about they don't have a website and they don't have all of the things, create a Facebook business page so that you at least have a place where you can post content, you can start to present a kind of, visual shop front for your business. But yeah, you don't need to overthink it much more than that.
So, is there anything you come up? Another one that came up, which is somewhat related as well, is what are your thoughts about giving incentives in exchange of referrals?
Yeah. I mean, I guess in the context that I shared when I was talking about, asking for referrals, what I do is I'm gifting a session. So that's, I don't like the word incentive just because it feels like the intention might be off, but, I would never straight up say to people, you can do this, but I tend not to straight up say to people, do you know anyone who would benefit from my work? Send them my way. I will say, if there's anyone you think would benefit, I'd love to give them a session if they're up for it, if they think it would be useful. So in that sense, yeah. And again, go back to the permission piece. Maybe they don't want to have a session. Sometimes people will say to me, I don't want the session. I just want to talk to you about working together, or I just want to talk to you about coaching, and that's fine. So always, make sure that whatever you're giving, in place of the referral, that there's permission there and it's something that is wanted from the other side. Hopefully that answers the question. And I can see the chat now, Steve, so I'm just having a look. Oh, thank you, Maggie. It's moving up. So I just want to check this one. I'm probably going to say this one. Biljana says, it's challenging to me to maintain the contacts once I get in touch with them. I witness a daily flow, change of all sorts, and struggling to maintain content creation in order not to lose them. What keeps them interested seems to be feeding the traditional marketing behavior. So I 100% resonate with the challenge of maintaining content. And because I struggle with that too, I do use certain tools to facilitate that. One free tool that I can recommend is called Capsule, where, when I've reached out to someone, it will integrate with your Gmail if you have Gmail. And you can just put a note when you've reached out to someone, when you've had an interaction, and a reminder to reach out in 2 months or 3 months. I like to do that because it just, otherwise I would, I just wouldn't be able to do it. I wouldn't be able to keep up. So I don't know if that's helpful, but it's definitely helped me to be a bit more structured. Oh, some lovely comments here. Thank you everyone for your compliments. So Steve, did you notice any other questions earlier? I'm just going to also paste in the chat. This is the link to the Google Drive folder, which hopefully works. I think I've set it so that anyone on the internet with the link can get it. And in there, you'll find the slides. You'll find the full instructions for the challenge. I would love it if people are going to do the challenge, that they reach out to me, maybe in the Facebook group, or drop me an email and let me know, because I think it's nice it's nice to share when you're doing that, when you're in that place. Oh, and I see Karen. Hey, Karen. Oh, lovely. Really lovely comments. So Steve, I don't know if you have any questions for me.
Yeah, well, I will just say that everyone else questions are still welcome there. But yeah, I think that was one thing that people go and they go, this is an amazing slide. Where can I get it? So yeah, so we've got something here. I wonder if it's a good idea to offer free sessions if it feels like giving away work, particularly if you're normally just offering single sessions at a time. What's your feel on that?
Yeah, it's a tricky one. I think it really depends. It doesn't have to be a free session. So there can be other things. What you want to do though, because a lot of people do have this concern. I work with, for example, I do work with a lot of coaches, and so they're like, oh, but you know, it's time. And my advice is, there's so many benefits, and there is actually a blog post I can share with people somewhere. Maybe I'll drop it into the Google Drive folder. There's so many benefits to doing the free sessions that if we go into it thinking, you know, this is only a benefit if somebody then becomes a client and then does further paid sessions with me, we're missing a trick. I really do believe we're missing a trick, because I find, you know, my client load is fully booked, and I still take the time to do complimentary sessions for a number of reasons. They keep me in touch with what people are struggling with in my industry, so conscious business owners and what they need help with. They're my way of giving back to the community. You know, some people might donate money, or but this is one of the ways that I give back for people who can't necessarily afford to work with me. They bring about business in other ways. Even if that person doesn't hire me, they'll send someone my way. Inevitably, it happens that most clients that I take on have either had a complimentary session with me, or they know someone who's had a complimentary session who raved about it, and then they come that way. So I think if you can switch your thinking on it, and you know, maybe if you only do 60-minute sessions, you give people 30. I mean, I'm not crazy about the whole taster session, but you know, if that feels better to you, but the key is to give them an experience of what it would be like to work with you. That's the key with this. Hopefully that answers the questions. I see Kimberly says 10 in 7 days would be a huge accomplishment for me. If that if that would be, Kimberly, I'd say go for it. Do 10. Even that will be impactful, I think, to you and your community.
Yeah, thank you, Caroline. Yeah, a lot of niceness coming through. And yeah, Neil, who was on earlier, just re-emphasised what you said at the start there as well, that it's a way to really tune into your clients' needs and develop new material, like new things that you can offer, because you're hearing all these new people coming in that way. Yeah, all right. Well, everyone, we have put the links in the chat to Caroline's website, and you've obviously now got the Google Drive as well, which is bloody amazing. So I'd perhaps like to say, would you like to share a closing message, Caroline, about what you'd like to see more of?
What I would like to see more of in the world?
Yeah, or a closing message from your presentation that people can take out going forward.
Yeah, I think what I would love more than anything is just for people to just take a step out of the weeds, I call it, you know, being in the weeds of their business, and just take a breather and step back and remember, you know, why we're doing this. You know, I think everybody in this session is here because they want to make the world a better place, yet we get so bogged down in the busyness of business that we forget to just, you know, be in connection with wonderful people and enjoy it. And so, yeah, I think it goes back to what Steve said earlier about being fun. I think we all know what it's like to forget how fun we are when we're, you know, knee deep in our business activities or to-do lists. So, yeah, I think that.
Awesome. Thank you, Caroline. And thank you for joining us. You'll be back tonight, I believe, at 8 p.m. UK time for the discussion panel, which will be with, I think, Steve, Neil, Tad and George and Alice, I think, are all also joining that. So everyone welcome to come back, see more of Caroline there. anyone who's watching this later, in the Facebook thread group about this, I'll also post a link to the Google Drive, so you can check out Caroline's stuff and find her at carolineleon.com. So thank you for this session. Much appreciated. And really glad that we got connected. That's the awesome thing about these events, is I have to research lots and find new people. And it's so great that, as you said, you're connected with George, and it's led you to being here just because you reached out. There's a closing message: reach out, right?
Yes, exactly.
So
Thanks,
thank you
Steve.
for that.